Hey guys, it's Nobber here. Hope you're all doing well today. Bringing you some footage actually of a Foot Champs game from last weekend, just to kind of demonstrate the real importance of keeping concentration whilst playing FIFA, Foot Champs in particular as well, to be honest. So, obviously, saw the guys' team on screen there, quite a few icons, but nothing majorly spectacular. And as you see, the game pans out. I find it quite easy to start off with, and ultimately that kind of leads me into losing concentration, and you'll see what happens in the end. That I do throw away quite a big lead, which was frustrating at the time. But when you look back on your own gameplay, you realise that sometimes you have really only got yourself to blame, to be honest. So just to kind of take you through my mindset early on, I always try and like to find out how the opposition plays as early as possible. So one thing that I typically like to do is play through balls down the line, make sure that you're triggering runs both backwards and forwards. If you don't know how to do that, it's LB, and using the left stick to point to a certain player to get them to make a run in behind. And if you want to pull them closer, then do the same, but use RB, and that is really effective to try and counter team pressing, as well as making your players make those forward movements in behind. So we've got the ball on the wing here. A quick 1-2 between Gomez and Zaha, and immediately I can see their fullback is not tracking that run down the wing, and that's something that I picked up on quite early in this game, and in the first half in particular, I did exploit it really well. That's something I'd recommend all of you look to do. It's a really good way to test out how often your opponent is going to track your runs. Again, you see there, he's more focused on pressing the ball than he is trying to run down the wing and track the run with Cancelo. So I'm getting a lot of early success making those movements down the line. So far, he's not really caused me too many difficulties going forward. I've been able to defend it pretty well. Mainly just trying to just figure out exactly how he's going to play, and go from there. Really, see, I bring off Beckham. Don't use Beckham, guys. Honestly, he's really not good. I've been subbing on Natal in midfield until I can get an upgrade on him, and that's been working out a lot better for me. That higher pace and higher agility midfield is definitely a bonus. I definitely recommend you look for those sorts of players in midfield. But you can see again here, I've got a lot of space with Zaha. Bit of trickery in around the box. Probably the best thing Zaha did for me all weekend, to be honest. I mean, we score a nice goal to go 1-0 up, but again, it's all because of the space that was created on the wings, allowing me the time on the ball. Didn't really pressure me with his fullback, so I could cut inside quite easily and quite comfortably, to be honest. Again, we're utilising the wings there, getting the ball forward as quickly as we can to exploit that space. Again, not something he's tracking. I can't stress how important that is in your guys' game, both to assess whether your opponents are doing that against you, and whether you think it's something that you can exploit out of them, but also, to reinforce to you guys that is something that you really do need to be doing. If you're not pressing the ball immediately, and you do prefer to drop off and play kind of slightly passively, which is generally more my game style, then tracking those runs in behind, tracking those through balls, particularly this year, given how strong they are, is an absolute must. Again, another classic example there. He's not switched to his fullback in time. Can easily play the ball down the wing. The original pass there was meant to go to Mahrez from Mane. For whatever reason, it locked onto Rashford, but I got fortunate that it dropped straight back to him. And I was feeling really comfortable in the game at this point. I think he'd almost got through on goal once, but I made a good tackle with John Stones. aside from that, he'd really not threatened me at all, and I was confident in making the runs in behind, exploiting that space. I could tell that was going to be a really easy way to get success, and it's something that I definitely utilise a lot of. Again, here Mane going down the channel. Just getting down the wings can be so effective. Poor pass from Rashford again there, but again, that run from Zaha is not really tracked in any way. Nice bit of footwork and a good finish as well. So we're 35 minutes in now. We're 3-0 up at this point. I can't exactly remember when I was playing the games over the weekend, but I think it was later on Sunday night. So I was obviously trying to get these games done as quickly as I could. But I was very much hoping for a rage quit at this point, which is probably my own fault. To be fair, we scored a really nice goal. I mean, that's 4-0 after 38 minutes now. So late on Sunday night, I'm definitely expecting a rage quit, and I think this is the point where I just kind of switch off a little bit. I've had a lot of success making the moves down the wing, playing the 1-2s, utilising the player runs. But you'll see in a second, he pulls a goal back before half time. I don't play a switch quick enough. He gets him behind with Lineker, and for whatever reason, just kind of switched off there, just not paying concentration, letting him get in behind far too easily there. And it was a poor goal to give up just before half time. Although he hasn't quit at 4-0, I'd like to have thought if I did get maybe one more, possibly two more at most, and he would have gone. But that goal just before half time kind of gives him a little bit of hope to try and get back in the game in the second half. And you've got to play and manage the game properly. If you're approaching half time or approaching full time and you're winning, then make sure that you play for the last attack. And if you don't feel confident, then get the ball off the pitch. But you can see by the halftime stats there, I've been completely in control of the game. 4 shots, 4 goals, 70+% possession. So, well in control. Just a bit frustrating that I conceded that goal right on halftime. But moving into the second half, as you'll see, my opponent does actually find a way back into the game, and although there are a couple of things that don't go in my favour, there are also ways that I think I could have handled this situation a lot better as well. And that's something that I'd really stress to you guys, is that there are a lot of times in FIFA where you're kind of scratching your head as to thinking, how on earth have I conceded that goal, or how on earth have they made that tackle or that interception or stuff like that. But you could always trace it back to your own mistake, and that's a really, really good way of trying to improve at the game, is just thinking about in every scenario how I could have done better. And that's something that I wasn't really doing in this game until later on. But when looking back on it, I can then go ahead and see, perhaps what I'm not doing in the second half that I was doing in the first half and things like that. But he's building a good bit of pressure. It's probably the first time he's really kept the ball on the edge of my box here. We defended near enough, but at the time certainly didn't even really think about that. Didn't register that could have been potentially a change. You can see the sheer number of bodies that he's got in my half now. Like I'm finding it harder to break out. And it's not until later on in the second half that I realised that he's actually changed formation and gone to a much more aggressive system, trying to press me a lot higher up the pitch. Had I have paid attention to that a little bit more, then I think possibly I could have tried to make a switch a little bit earlier, or at least kind of registered in my brain that was the thing that I needed to pay attention to. So that's another thing to look out for, is really keep on top of what your opponent is doing. You have to adapt in games. Sometimes your number one play style isn't going to be effective against certain opponents, and that's just something that everybody has to adapt to. Teams in real life, not everybody plays the same way all the time unless they're absolutely exceptional. And the same's in FIFA as well. There are some systems that won't work against some opponents if they're particularly strong at defending in certain ways. So that's definitely something to consider. So we're at the hour mark now. Obviously, it's still 4-1. I'm still feeling pretty comfortable at this point. Just making a sub to get some fresh legs on. Again, definitely something I'd recommend. I'm not sure if you guys use substitutions a lot, but it's really effective for getting some fresh legs on, especially if the opponent has been team pressing you for a while. Obviously, their stamina will drain, so getting that extra bit of pace on down the wings or up fronts to get in behind, whatever it might be, can make a big difference. I know people that like to plan substitutions at certain points in the game. You can do that if that works for you in particular. Zaha takes a really bad touch there. It's one of the traps I've fallen into quite a lot recently is holding down the right trigger button whilst trying to do a ball roll, and it just results in a heavy touch, which is frustrating. But you see here, it's a really poor tackle from Cancelo. I've gone to win the ball, and whether it's a case of delay or just being just a fraction too late, not anticipating the extra touch, the tackle comes in late. And it's a clear penalty. I can't have any complaints about it whatsoever. Probably a situation where again, I'm just not really concentrating. What I should have done there is simply jockey with the defender, just follow him down the line a little bit, wait for him to do what he wants with it, and then try and pounce on him. Instead, I've tried to predict what he's doing. I've lunged in with Cancelo, and ultimately now at 4-2, I've kind of given him away back into the game. And he then goes up the other end, and quite quickly in a minute we'll score a third goal, and then all of a sudden it's a 1-goal game, and I've gone from 4-0 up in the 40th minute to then being 4-3 with about 15-20 minutes to go. And here you can see my game's now transitioned into quite a dribbling focused game, which is difficult to pull off this year because of how left dribbling works. Obviously nowhere near as effective as it was last year, so I've completely gone away from the quick passing in the first half, and making the player movements in behind, taking my time on the ball, making sure I'm only passing it when players aren't tracking. And then here, Milner makes a great run through midfield. It's a really good finish, and that's part of the system that he's changed to. You'll see in a second that I do have a look to see what formation he changes to, and notice that it's a 4-3-1-2. Because at the time I was like, well, how on earth is Milner making that run through? Like, what system is he using? Because there were just so many forward runs to track there, and at this point I'm using a 4-4-2, so I'm using quite an aggressive system myself. We get a great goal to go 5-3 up there, but it still just kind of felt now like a game that I was struggling in. I certainly didn't feel like I played anywhere near my best in the second half. There you see the 4-3-1-2 system that's strong. I will be bringing out a custom tactic setup on that in the near future, because I think that's definitely a good system to use in an attacking sense. You can really go try and overload the middle of the pitch and get those forward runners. That's what he did to me there with Milner. I didn't track the run, and I paid the price for it. That goal from Mane, you'd like to think it'd make the game secure at 5-3 with 10 minutes to go, but again, I don't pay concentration. I give the ball away with Tavernier there in a really silly place. Thankfully get away with it, but just not really learning my lessons. And that's the power of concentration. It cannot stress to you how important it is, especially in this FIFA, to try and stay as switched on as you can at all times, and that's not just from game to game. That's also in game as well. There we go. There's 5-4. I've not switched on to Cancelo anywhere near quick enough to try and get back. I've then tried to lunge in to win the ball. Just not in a great headspace at the moment, struggling to figure out what's going wrong. But looking back, I can tell it's just I'm not following my own rules of how to play, and what I know you need to do to succeed. That's twice I've tried to lunge into a tackle. One time I've given away a penalty. The other time I've been caught out and he's scored on the counter attack. So that's something that you need to be aware of. But anyway, you'll see that the opponent actually scores again in a second to make it 5-5. This was kind of unlucky defending because I get in the way of it, as you'll see. But I then do go on to win the game on penalties in the end. But I hope you've enjoyed the gameplay, guys. I hope this has kind of made a little bit of sense to you as to how concentration is so important. Make sure to drop a like and a sub to the channel. There'll be plenty more content like this, along with other tips and tricks as to how you can improve your game at FIFA. And there's a link to all my socials, along with the Patreon Discord in the description as well, for you to go and follow.